Hey, what's up guys? It's Loza. Today we're performing a deck roast, if you will, on the Matchy Yugioh Dark Magician branded list that he took to YCS Vancouver. Now, if you haven't checked out Matchy's series, please go and do it. I will have the link in the description. It's an amazing series, and he just documents his entire testing process as well as the deck changes he makes leading up to the event. And, we're going to have a look at the list here and talk about what I think is good, what I think is bad, and all the rest. Of course, Matchy's probably the highest credential Dark Magician player right now, I want to say, because he's actually taken DM to a recent YCS and done pretty good, I want to say. He did cop a lot of L's at the start, but then he started picking up some mad W's as well. And overall, I do think the build is solid and his theory is pretty accurate, but we'll get into that as the video progresses. So we can see off the bat, single DM, single DMG. He'll get into why as well.
We played the 1 DMG, the 1 DM, like we have all this time. We played the 3 Illusion of Chaos.
Alright, he didn't get into it, but basically because of the branded engine, you never really want to play 2 DM. You don't want the bricks. The DMG gives you a second draw off your Soul Servant, so he just went for 1-on-1. And I think it really works out pretty well. I do think playing DM at 1 in future is actually going to be like a staple. There was an OCG list that topped a long time ago. I mean, it got 3rd, but that's still pretty good for DM. And it played 1 DM. So I do think 1 DM is very good, especially since Dragon Knight and the other Ritual guy can be DM as well. But anyway, we'll talk about that ratio another time. Triple Illusion of Chaos here as well. I don't think he's on any prep, which is a little interesting, but he may be on a lore, which kind of validates the Triple Illusion of Chaos. It's also the card you do want to see, and it can put your bricks back. But anyway, we'll see where the prep ratio is later.
There's 3 Magician Souls. Magician Souls was actually so crazy. It's by far the best card in our archetype.
True.
We played the 2 Magician's Rod, the 1 Timaeus, the 2 Soul Servants, and the 1 Secrets of Dark Magic.
I think 2 rods actually generous in this branded build. I reckon you could get away with the 1, especially with triple Illusion of Chaos. Like, that's essentially, you've already got 4 copies of rod. I guess 5. I think 5 is the optimal number to see a card at 1 in your starting hand, and no more, no less. But yeah, still 2 Soul Servant as well, because, it's kind of smart because the 3rd Soul Servant doesn't really come up. And if it does, it's in pure DM. Not really in a branded package kind of DM. Or rather, a DM package in branded kind of DM.
You guys know why I love this ratio. There's not too much to go into it. So that's it for the Dark Magician stuff.
So because he plays Monster
I've talked about
that allows him to do like the Dragon Knight or Dragoon combo if he opens up Rod and Souls, which I've cut Timaeus from a lot of my list, and it does get rid of that line of play, but he's still got it there.
This deck so many times.
But no Circle Eternal Soul, so no Dragon Knight. But yeah, I digress.
You guys are probably sick and tired of hearing my reasons for everything. Continuing the list, you guys know how much I love this engine. A lot of people don't like it, but we do continue playing the branded engine, the 2 Fallen Avabas, the 2 Cartesias, along with the 3 copies of branded Fusion.
Cartesia is just... Blazing Cartesia is all of what Timaeus should have been, really. Bullet of Albaz is amazing, and branded Fusion's amazing. Not much more to say.
And then the 3 copies of Deployment, as well as Duality, and then the 1 Shaddai Schism.
So not Pot of Duality. The reason why Deployment's so good in this deck is because it summons Cartesia or it can summon Albaz, which are both very, very good targets. In DM, if you use Fusion Deployment, you lock yourself out of some of your link plays, and summoning a vanilla is not good, who would have guessed? So it's pretty bad in DM, but in a deck like Brandon, Fusion Deployment is amazing. The Schism here is cracked because it's basically able to be set up with the branded Fusion and or Cartesia combo kind of stuff, letting you get into that cool Dragon Fusion guy that I've forgotten the name of. Pop him on the screen though. You make him and he basically can help set up your whole Schism play. I also would recommend running Nadir's Servant because it helps you set up this Schism play too and lets you search it out and all that fun stuff. It's the same thing essentially. Matchy here has gone for the Duality. I think Duality is a little risky. It's a little win more in my opinion. Obviously Duality is pretty crazy in its own right, but it requires things to be good, right? And I think DM's pretty scared of stuff like that. I mean, I have videos testing Duality, but I think if you wanted to play a triple spell here, it would be Nadir's Servant. And you just do that after all your Branded Fusion stuff gets negated and all your brand. But I can see why you wouldn't play Nadir as well. Extra deck could be tight and whatnot. And maybe he doesn't like the Dogmatica engine at all. But I do think the Dogmatica cards tie in nicely with the Branded Fusion cards. But anyway, let's hear what he says.
Underrated card this weekend was Duality. I underestimated how crazy this card actually is. Obviously, I knew how good it was going into the format because I wanted to main it this whole time. I think it's a very strong card for DM, especially branded DM. However, during the YCS, this card was unbelievable. There were times where, you know, I'd burn through all 3 in a single match. There's more targets in the extra deck now for it. It just, the way it controls games by replenishing your assets and constantly dodging interruptions is so crazy. Duality was one of the best cards in my deck. Going into the event, I was actually skeptical about Duality. I thought, okay, can Duality be a stronger card, like, for example, another board breaker or a different hand trap? I am so glad I kept this card in, because this YCS, more than any other event I've been to, showed me the proper value of Duality. I think...
Well, there you go. I was just saying how probably the card I'd cut here, but Match here said it was probably the best, absolute best card he played. I didn't think of the interaction of dodging hand traps, though I think I did do that in my video for Tamias' fusion effect, but that's an interesting concept in Branded, especially because the Branded fusion cards are so important to resolve, and being able to dodge Imperm and Veiler with Duality is kind of huge. Not to mention, you get another summon on the way, so it's almost like a call by the grave plus an extra body. Like, it's actually pretty insane. Now, when I talk about Nadir's Servant, I talk about, oh, I got hand trapped on my Lubellion, right? And then I Nadir and just play from there. Instead, Duality is acting like, oh, I got hand trapped on Lubellion, let me just move it to the grave. Now, Veiler or Imperm isn't negating it, and now I'll resolve that, and I'll summon this other guy too. So this is actually kind of insane. I guess it still suffers from that same problem of, like, if you drew this with a bunch of other spells, like, it doesn't do anything unless you draw Branded Fusion. But you know what I mean? Like, if you draw this with a bunch of other things, it can be dead. Nadir's Servant is kind of never dead. Nadir's Servant is just one of those crazy good starters. But hey, you just play both. You can play both. I guess Nadir's Servant would clash a little bit with Duality. But it's a quick play spell. You could set it after doing your Dogmatica stuff, to be honest. But obviously the unique part of Duality is using it as a pseudo call by the grave to dodge hand traps here, which seems very successful when Branded Fusion doesn't get ashed. Which I guess is another problem of the deck and the Red Eyes build of the deck as well. Obviously, everyone knows I like the Red Eyes build of the deck. If we get ashed on Branded Fusion or Red Eyes Fusion, we are shitting the bed. And I do love being able to drop Nadir's Servant after that. Yes, you can stall Nadir's Servant after losing your ref to Ash. And you can at least set up the Schism play. So yeah, I do really like being able to just, you know, not have Dragoon and instead of crying about it, just set up a Schism play for the opponent's turn. They know it's coming, it's telegraphed, but you can at least say, hey, I hope you have an out for this instead. And if you got Village along with that and an Apprentice Illusion in hand, you're probably winning that game.
So we did play the 3 copies of Ash Blossom. I expected a lot of Branded Chimera. So that was pretty much, I didn't see Branded Chimera all in the main event at all. However, Ash Blossom soloed a lot of my matchups in the side events. Nibiru was probably the most disappointing pick.
That's brave.
That I took with me. I thought, you know, Nibiru was going to be the best of the hand traps and the board breakers I played. It was by far the worst, simply because the way Unchained is able to play around it, it didn't really do anything. It came up a few times into the cash matchups in the main event, which was okay. However, those games I was kind of winning anyways because of Book of Eclipse.
Oh, nice. We're getting into Book of Eclipse, but before we do, let's just talk about the hand traps, because they're kind of more so for going second. I mean, Book of Eclipse is too, but you know what I mean. They're monster hand traps rather than spells. Ash is always good. I think if you go, I'm going to play one hand trap in my deck, what is it? It's either Imperm or Ash. Like, they're just that good. In the ref build, I think Imperm's a little better. In a generic build, I think Ash is the way to go. In any deck, Ash is good, because Ash is good against Runic, Ash is good against Eldish, Ash is good against some jank deck that your cousin's playing down the road, right? Ash is like universally just going to hit a card. Someone's going to pot of extra, pot of Zai is going to say no. Whereas Nibiru, while the blowout is massive, the blowout of Nibiru is like you win the game almost. It does just do nothing against some of those decks I mentioned. Now, obviously, if you verse like Hero, Salamangre, some other decks in the format, you can win you the game. But I think Nibiru is a bit too brave to main deck unless you know everyone in the format will play into it. I think you gotta side Nibiru. Yeah, I just don't see Nibiru being a main card. It's very big nuts to main Nibiru. Maining Ash, very safe and good move. Maining Imperm as well. Maining Effect Veiler, like, all very safe. Maining Nibiru, no. Obviously format dependent, and Matchy thought it would be good for the format, and then it just didn't end up being that way. And that can happen too. You can you can build your deck to beat the best deck, and then you verse the second best deck the whole tournament, right? That can happen too. So it could have just been a case of, unlucky. But let's hear what he says about Book of Eclipse and Village.
Book of Eclipse put in so much work at this YCS. I thought Book of Eclipse was so incredible. Even going first, right? If you set up like say Dragoon, right, and Book of Eclipse, you would burn your Dragoon negate, and then you would go cool. Your opponent would continue playing, right, and like they would kind of be on a lackluster board. Going into like Infernobles, Dragon Link, Unchained, Book of Eclipse was just so crazy because you just flip everything face down, even your own Dragoon, right? So, but even though you flip everything face down, your opponent still doesn't really have enough gas to play through, you know, everything flipped, right? They use your normal summon, they probably special, they're probably wanting to go into an extension, into a link play, and Book of Eclipse completely stop that. Then on your turn, when everything flips up, Dragoon flips up and is immediately live again, and that just overtakes the game state, and it's just so incredibly effective. The Book of Eclipse, I think, is incredible in this format. One of my favorite cards over the weekend. I thought it was really awesome. And then Secret Village in the main, because Secret Village going first is such a blowout. Fun fact though, throughout the entire day, especially day one, I didn't see Village in 8 rounds. 8 rounds of the YCS, and I saw Village 0 times in the main event. So that was incredibly frustrating. There were so many occasions. Obviously we lost to Lab, and Lab doesn't use a lot of hand traps, or sorry, a lot of spell cards, because their decks predominantly traps. However, this would have helped in so many of my matchups. Closing them out earlier would have been awesome. But Village, I didn't see it at all in the main event. Village, of course, did dominate the side events. Just Village Dragoon is just so strong going first, especially in a format with a bunch of power spells. So I thought Village Dragoon, very good. I don't.
All right, let's talk about that. 3 Village is always strange to me. I always think you should just play 1 Terraforming, 2 Village, because it also enables like other toolbox field spells too. Like when Mystic Mine was good, it was a good tech. Obviously, there's no mine anymore, but if any other field spells are good, like if you're playing Pure DM, you got Salvation access as well, or any other cool field spells like Summon Breaker, the Summon Limit styled field spell. You can have like, you know, access to a couple of different field spells. Not to mention, you're playing Branded. If you have Terraforming, they ash it, you're like, okay, Branded Fusion, like, you're chilling. There are some times where you get hand trapped in Branded, where you don't have a way to finish on a spellcaster as well. Now, I guess with the new Cartesia combos and fusion deployment, you pretty much always make your way to that dragon guy. I keep forgetting his name, but he's a spellcaster. So I guess you always have a way there now. So Village at 3 is probably a lot safer. But like even in DM, I play Village at like 1 or 2, or at least with the Terraforming as the 3rd copy, if you will. It's just like deck thinning. It just seems good to do something like that. You could argue it plays into Droll, but like, man, every card in your deck plays into Droll by that logic, especially in DM. Like Prep, Illusion of Chaos, Rod, like Soul Servant, they're all going to play in a Droll. So, I don't know. I think Terraforming, good card. And on Master Duel, can you believe it? Ridiculous. It's just a nitpick thing, but I always think like you should optimize ratios and stuff. And Ashbait's never bad when you're playing Branded Fusion, right? Now, Book of Eclipse, I do love. I really love the Book of Eclipse. Going second, it's an absolute board breaker. I do play the Swords of Concealing Light a lot in Ref DM. It's kind of the same thing, but the card was a lot cheaper and easier to find. Could argue it's better and worse, but everyone thinks Book of Eclipse is better, and that's fair enough. I just don't like the flip up at the end of the turn and give people draws. Obviously, being quick play is amazing. And look, as Matchy said, if they summon 2 warriors and you flip them face down, there's no Isolde, there's no combo. Like, you can turn off so many decks by just flipping all their shit face down before they go into their links or anything else like that, which is nice. Against fusion decks, it's not so useful though. Which I would expect the Branded matchup or the Branded Mirror to come up a fair bit, and then I don't know, this seems less good. Anyway, Book of Eclipse, good card. All right, we're up to the extra deck. Let's go.
Go into the extra deck. The extra deck, we are playing the 2 Dragoons. I did get my second Starlight at the event, so I thought that was really special for me.
That's hard.
Now the next card I want to get a Starlight on is the Dark Magicians. I thought the Dark Magicians was actually really good this weekend. Just fixing my hand was incredible.
Are you sure?
So I thought that was very strong. Master of Chaos was actually a new addition because we caught Super Poly. So we had a little more flexibility in the extra deck. And I just opted to play Master of Chaos simply because players aren't ending on a lot of Omni negates. I thought a Master of Chaos board wipe is actually very effective. Master of Chaos also being able to revive Cartesia to fuse on, you know, your turn after it's been dealt with, for example,
that's pretty big,
is just really strong.
That's pretty
so
big.
I thought Master of Chaos was actually a fantastic pick. It did come up in one of my games. I'm not sure which round it came up in, but it did end the game, and I thought that was really cool. Outside of that, I didn't really see it. However, it was it was a nice addition to have in the deck. With Super Polygon, it just, with a format with very little Omni negates, I thought Master of Chaos can see a spot in the main. So that is for the Dark Magician lineup.
I think Master of Chaos has earned its spot in the extra deck, but the DM fusions besides Dragoon are definitely like a Swiss Army knife, and like they all have their own niche. A lot of those niches are outdated, but I do feel Dark Magicians is a standard because you can go Battle Phase and swing, do cool things with drawing cards. Master of Chaos is a staple as well because you can also OTK with it, you can board wipe with it if they don't have a good way to out, they'll negate the board wipe. And yeah, look, reviving Cartesia in this build would actually be pretty huge. And of course, Dragoon's Dragoon, play Dragoon.
And we are playing the branded cards that we have been playing this whole time. The 2 Albions, the 1 Lubellion, the 1 Sanctifier, the 1 Mirror Jade. You know,
I don't know what Sanctifier does, and at this point, I'm too scared to ask. It just looks like Blue Eyes, but anyway.
Deployment, summon Albaz. Nobody's playing Omni Negate, so Albaz just fuses with your opponent's monsters, and then Mirror Jade, you know, just does the rest, does the business. Mirror Jade is just so strong, right? So we love that. Then we play the Schism package, which is the 2 Windows and the 1 Apgalone.
I went to locals with a Window package Nadir Servant stuff, and my god, did I want the second window. I remember going, damn, Matchy played the second window, and I was at locals and my window got outed, and I added back the Schism, and I'm just like, if only I played the damn second window. I think the second window is such a good call, because it would have won me the game if I could have just set that Schism and actually had to play with it. My hand was just like, I drew a brick for turn as well, and I was just like, bro. So I think this is probably one of the best calls in the extra deck so far. Like, the branded package is good. Yeah, like, you just play those. It's pretty standard. The 2 window with this package. You think that's a lot of extra deck space for just, you know, a small engine / package, but it's really good. And if you're playing Nadir Servant, I would absolutely recommend the second window. I'm going to go find a second one right after this video.
Once again, it didn't really come up that much in the main event simply because I also didn't win that many die rolls. If I remember correctly, I won 2 die rolls on 7 rounds, right? So going first was not really an option for me day 1. Day 2 though, I did get significantly luckier with my die rolls. This deck loves going first, loves.
I would say that's another reason Matchy copped a couple of L's in the earlier rounds. Like, he just didn't win die rolls, and that can just happen. You just go to tournaments. Like, DM has that problem too, where like going second is so bad in the deck, unless you summon Dragoon turn 1 and have the double pop, right? So yeah, it's not really his fault. Like, you build the deck to go first, and like that's kind of what Brandon and DM have to do. They have to go first. They set up all these crazy boards. Going second, it just doesn't quite work the same. You know, I think this is a solid extra deck. Let's check out the next bit.
Then we play the 1 Grangyol and the 1 Dust Dragon. And for
there's the guy I forget the name of, Grangyol or whatever. The dragon man who is actually a spellcaster. That card's cracked and helps you set up your Schism plays. You'll love to see it. And it's like a little effect in the grave / field to be annoying. That's great. And this inker that I don't know. Let's find out about it.
For the final saucy duality target, we play the Borland Furious Dragon. There were some people that did suggest this card to me, and I overlooked it on how strong it could be, simply because it could be made off Timaeus and Lubellion, right, to dodge the imperms and things like that. So I thought that was very, very strong. And just Furious Dragon, it could be made off Timaeus as well, right? So I just think that, like, this being an interruption, this is kind of like a mini Pankratops in a sense, because it could tribute itself and deal with a problematic monster. And I think it's just very, very strong in that regard, right?
Like, even if it had no effect, the fact that your Lubellion or your Timaeus are getting hand trapped, and you can just go Duality, summon this out, and dodge the hand trap, that's huge.
So it dealt with a lot of problems, as well as providing, you know, a better board going second, right? Because, like,
oh yeah, I need to read this card. Quick effect: target a monster you control and 1 card your opponent controls, destroy them. Nice, very solid. Banish this card from grave. Target a dark link in your grave. Special summon it, but it can't activate its effect. Okay, so you probably won't get that effect, but the on-field quick effect is real nice.
Say you go Branded Fusion and you go straight into the Dragoon line with Dragoon, and then you go into the Lubellion line with Dark Magician and Fallen of Albaz, pitching a card. Your opponent attempts to interact with Lubellion. You chain Duality, summoning Borland Furious Dragon, and now immediately with Dragoon and Borland, Borload, sorry, I keep saying Borland. It's a Borload Furious Dragon. You have two destructions, and I just think that's really, really strong.
I'm just checking, but in that scenario he just described, quick effect, target a monster you control. Oh, you can't target the Dragoon. Damn it. It would be so good if you just target the Dragoon, target one of their cards, destroy them, you know, Dragoon doesn't get popped. It had to say target, didn't it? Damn it, Borreload, you were nearly cracked AF.
Really, really nice to have. So I did like this as a duality target. Will it stay? I'm not sure. It didn't really come up that much. However, when it did, it was definitely in a win more game state. So I don't really see a situation where this card can win me games outright. However, when it did come up, it was really, really awesome.
I feel like the main purpose of it is that dodging of the hand trap more than like the Borreload Furious Dragons effect. That's just like the cherry on top if you needed it. But like you said, Duality was amazing, but I'm guessing this is the main thing you summoned off it, and you described it as kind of mediocre, so that's interesting. I don't really like assessing side decks because I find they're kind of format specific. But let's just talk about Thrust, because he said Thrust is just amazing, and you should pretty much play it in any deck, because it grabs you that one of Tactics, that one of Duster, that one of Herald of the Abyss. And look, I think that's pretty good. I know a lot of people, when this card got announced, they're like, you can Thrust and get Eye of Timaeus. No, you people get back in the cave. We're not doing that. But anyway, aside from that, side deck looks solid. Like, there's not much to say. Judgment, Cosmic, and the Kurikara, like, you can't really go wrong with the cards that are here, right? Not much more to say. I think it's a very, very solid list, and it certainly takes the DM cards and tries to use only the good ones. So not playing the Circle, not playing the Eternal Soul, no Dragon Knight combo, nope. Just going for pure gas, drawing cards, fusing, that's it. That's all we care about. And you know what? It's probably the correct way to play DM moving forward. Some people might not like to hear that, but it's probably the optimal style of DM. Treating DM more as a core, like an engine rather than the deck. Probably how DM will be forever, to be honest. Unless we get some crack support in the form of a Link, in the form of a fusion spell, and maybe a bunch else. There's really no reason to ever play DM pure when you could mix it with something and just kind of play a better version of DM and a slightly worse version of that deck you mix it with. But anyway, that's the end of the video. It's not much of a roast because I do think this is probably the optimal way to play DM, and Matchy has just nailed it. Obviously, he didn't have amazing success, but I still think his wins were very valid, and I still think the testing, the journey, everything about this video series is sensational. And this is kind of what we should aim for as a DM community, you know? Building a deck together, figuring out the quirks, taking it to a large event, and showcasing how it went for everyone to see. This is a really cool spectacle, and it also highlights, you know, how the DM community can be creative, how we can collaborate, how we can all come together and work on a deck profile essentially all together. Really cool deck, really cool video series. Go check them out, and that's about it. If you like branded DM, this is the best way to play it. Anyway, I'll catch you guys soon, and let me know what you think of Nadir's Servant in branded DM. Maybe it's more of a not branded DM thing and just the DM thing. I don't know. But obviously, I'm a big enjoyer of Ref DM, so this is very different to my taste. But this is obviously the best version of DM. His end boards with Dragoon and Windra a lot of the time, very consistently. You love to see it. But yeah, go check out Matchy's vids. I think I've said that 7 times now, but bye-bye!